Hello, everybody. It is the American Doofus Show. Don't be a doofus. Thank you all for joining. I'm going to be running some. I'm going to be running screens, so I'll let you know when I'm in the on the StreamYard page, so that if you want to join the chat. Again, thanks for watching. Thank you for. As always, thank you for watching, and always greatly appreciated. So, as I said, I'm going to be running screens here, so I will let you know when I'm in the chat and can see what's what. For those that are new to the show, thank you for joining. It's the American Doofus Show. Don't be a doofus. Do subscribe, like, share, if you would. And it's just, this is going to be a wrap up. I'm doing it live. We're going to be a wrap up of how things stand as of 11:39 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in the situation between Ukraine, Russia, NATO, and the world. And I came on, I was going to wait and do this in the morning, but I've been tracking this plane right down here, Homer 21, and tracked it last night and the night before. And it normally goes along the Syrian border, and it's a United States Air Force plane. Now, real quick, just while I've got this up, let me see if I can do this. I hope this is working on your end and you're able to see this. Here it gives you an idea of Ukraine. Not many planes over at all at the moment, but this is Crimea. This was annexed by Russia in 2014. Here's Luhansk and Donetsk, two cities you've probably heard quite a bit about. This region right here is deemed a Russian separatist region, and where you see the little hand going, this is the recognized border of Ukraine. Why is that important? We'll talk about that in just a minute. I'm going to talk about why I was tracking Homer. This area right here is shoot, I forget the name of it. Starts with a G. This part of the ocean is where the no-fly zone is, where the Russian no-fly zone is, and with the no-fly zone area being there, with Crimea being here, Homer was flying right towards. And why does Homer matter? Homer is a Boeing RC-135. It's a large reconnaissance aircraft modified by a number of companies, and it's part of a recon mission. It's out here. I imagine it's out here testing to see if there's going to be any response from Crimea to the presence of a lone American plane. If there had been 3 or 4 planes heading that direction, response might have been different. Had they continued on into this area that is deemed no-fly zone, things might have ended up differently. So I'm watching it, and Homer turns, and he's headed right straight for the. This is Russia over here, Georgia right down here, and Belarus up here. Then you get the what's called the Baltic countries of Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia. So this gives you kind of a view of what the geography is as you're hearing people talk about all this, because oftentimes people go really fast and think that everybody knows where everything's at, and everybody knows military tactics, and everybody knows you know what they think they know. And so sometimes it's good if you're a visual learner, especially to see um, to see where the various areas are that are such an integral part of our conversations. Again, if you're just joining us, I'm not on the StreamYard page, so I can't see the chat at the moment. I'm manipulating screens, and I'm hoping it all comes out all right. I'm hoping the sound. Let me hop over here to the StreamYard real quick, see if anybody's in the chat. Okay, nobody's even in the chat. All right, that's cool. This is history. If this goes, no matter how this goes, how this plays out, I'm going to be showing some different things throughout the next probably 35 minutes. And again, Homer has made a U-turn basically, and is heading back. I'll give you a look real quick before I get off this page. Wait a minute, I got to click back on him. And you can see Homer's home base is down here in Cyprus. So that's why I was watching that plane. And it is odd that you can track military planes. Just here, let's see what this is. This is a plane going to Istanbul. And technology is amazing. And it's going to play a big part if and when anything does indeed kick off. So basically, I'm going to just kind of, as I said, run down where things are as they stand right now. Putin gave a speech. I did a live that had that speech on it. Russian troops crossed the recognized Ukrainian border, and they're being deemed as peacekeepers. I kind of have to wonder if that's not a jab at America, because so many times when we send troops in, as peacekeepers. The response to moving in was basically the talk and the threat of sanctions. The United States Embassy moved all of its people out of Western Western Ukraine and into Poland. I'm sorry, the cat was down here by my feet. And then Zelensky spoke after a lengthy meeting of the Ukraine Defense Ministry, and then the UN Council met, and that's kind of a wrap of where we are up to this point. I wanted to get that out there because a lot of people aren't going to stay and watch this whole thing in its entirety. As I said, we're probably looking at about 30 minutes. So I wanted to get that wrap up out there and see where things stood right now. A lot of people don't trust mainstream media, and I totally understand that. I don't either. I always try to get a couple of sources, and I don't unless I'm doing like an in case you missed it, then I use one source. But anyway, let me. Okay, one of the places. Oh, I stopped it. My bad. Hello, everybody. Hi, Diane. Hi, Thunder. Hello to everybody out there watching. I'm going to get back here to the screens, and I'll be back up here in the chat in just a second. I hit the wrong button. One of the sites I do check and I find gives pretty gives information fairly quickly is Al Jazeera, and they're rather neutral on this. Um, a lot of news sites are reporting what's going on as with an agenda. Let's just say that a lot of news sites are reporting what's going on with an agenda, and Al Jazeera doesn't seem to be doing that. And that's one reason I'm doing what I'm doing here on my channel, and devoting so much time to this is because it could be an incredibly it could be a we're watching history unfold, and I'm documenting history with these videos, and hopefully it turns out to be a positive history, and diplomacy and talk can indeed win the day, but that is yet to be seen. Um, as I said, this is Al Jazeera, and um, the UN meets after Russia sends troops to eastern Ukraine. I've got the UN meeting. I'm going to play some clips from that, as I said, coming up. Um, Putin recognizes the independence of Ukraine, and oil prices jump. Um, a lot of flights being canceled, a lot of tourism dollars being lost in Ukraine over this. They're saying it's safe to fly in there. Meanwhile, this is the one I wanted to get to. Um, Satellite images show show a pretty lengthy line of military vehicles heading south in Russia towards the Ukrainian border. So let's see. I also wanted to get to this, and I think it's got music. No, okay. All right, this is, let me get it as big as possible here so you can get as good a look as possible. Just for those that are saying, there aren't no military vehicles rolled into what is Ukrainian territory, because obviously now the territory they're moving into is supported, propped up by Russia. And it goes back to 2014. It actually goes back a lot farther than that, but the latest incident in 2014. But I'm not going to spend a lot of time delving into all that history on this particular episode. Again, just wanted to give you a view of that, and here it is. I just realized there we go. Well, now it stopped. Okay, let's try this again. This is why I need a producer, because I get talking and there it is. Get talking and lose the production here. So this is a 16-second video that's on Twitter, just showing showing troops moving in. And it's on a loop. Again, just giving you a couple of views of things, because as with everything, there's going to be false information that comes out. Okay, let's go here. And wait a minute, let me get rid of this one. There we go. let's see, is this where we're at on browsers lost credit connection? Okay, that's no problem. All right. Again, thank you all for being here. Those that are watching, always greatly appreciated. And let me go back to this is CBS News. Again, just to give you an idea of the headlines and how things are being portrayed. Putin orders Russian forces into Ukraine's breakaway regions. Russia launching, quote, brutal war of choice, end quote, if Ukraine is invaded. Biden-Putin summit on the table if Russia doesn't invade. Now, the question becomes, is this an appeasement? Does the White House say, this isn't really an invasion because Russia has had troops there since 2014? And, they're just reinforcing the troops they have there. So they haven't really crossed a line, and basically showing Russia that you can just walk in and take parts of Ukraine if you so desire. Because there was an agreement in the UN a week ago, and we'll get to that here. We'll get to that here in just a moment. But like I said, there's all kinds of stuff going around the internet, including Kiev being bombed, and you can see from the live camera here that sunrise is just happening. People just starting to get on the streets. So without further ado, wait a minute, did I share that? Let me share this. There we go. I apologize for that. As I said, I get talking and we lose production value, but what can I do? So that's what's going on in Kiev at the moment, live. And here is the Security Council meeting. Okay, just wanted to make sure I was on the page. Actually, I'm going to get to this, get rid of me for a minute here. And this is I need my notes because I'm not going to play the whole thing. The whole thing is like an hour and 33 minutes long. And a lot of it is people saying the same thing. Let's see, I want to start right about it. So there we go. Okay. Again, I'm not going to play the whole thing, but this is basically how it opens.
Concern and sadness that I brief the council this evening on the unfolding dangerous situation in and around Ukraine. In his statement today, the Secretary General was clear. The Secretary General considers the decision of the Russian Federation to recognize the independence of certain areas of the Donetsk and Luhansk regions to be a violation of the territorial integrity and sovereignty of Ukraine and inconsistent with the principles of the Charter of the United Nations. We very much regret this decision, which risks having regional and global repercussions. We also regret the order to deploy Russian troops into eastern Ukraine, reportedly on a peacekeeping mission. These developments follow the decision to order a mass evacuation of civilian residents of Donetsk and Luhansk into the Russian Federation. We are concerned by the escalating shelling across the contact line, reportedly leading to a number of casualties. OSCE's Special Monitoring Mission has recorded a total of 3,231 ceasefire violations in the Donbas area from 18 to 20 February. 1,073 ceasefire violations, including 926 explosions in the Luhansk region, and 2,158 ceasefire violations, including 1,100 explosions in Donetsk region. We remind all involved of their responsibilities under international humanitarian law and human rights law. Although the United Nations is not in a position to verify the numerous claims and allegations made by various actors, we are deeply concerned about the reports of civilian casualties, targeting of civilian infrastructure, and ongoing evacuations. Mr. President, we are extremely concerned about the possible implications of the latest developments for the existing negotiation frameworks. Amid the current risks and uncertainty, it is even more important to pursue dialogue. Negotiation is the only way to address the existing differences among the key actors regarding regional security issues and the settlement of the conflict in eastern Ukraine in accordance with Security Council Resolution 2202. Before the current already dangerous conditions escalate further, we call on all relevant actors to focus their efforts on immediate cessation of hostilities. Civilians and civilian infrastructure must be protected, and actions and statements that may worsen the situation must be avoided.
Okay, I'm going to give you just a check time-wise here. This is the American United States ambassador to the United Nations.
Provoked. It is an attack on Ukraine's status as a UN member state. It violates a basic principle of international law, and it defies our charter. What is more, this move by President Putin is clearly the basis for Russia's attempt to create a pretext for a further invasion of Ukraine. The consequences of this action will be felt far beyond Ukraine's borders. We do not have to guess at President Putin's motives. Today, President Putin made a series of outrageous false claims about Ukraine aimed at creating a pretext for war, and immediately thereafter announced Russian troops are entering the Donbass. He claimed that Ukraine is seeking nuclear weapons from the West. This is not true. Ukraine is in fact one of only 4 countries to have voluntarily surrendered their nuclear weapons. The United States and our allies have no intention of supplying nuclear weapons to Ukraine, and Ukraine doesn't want them. And then President Putin asserted that Russia today has a rightful claim to all territories from the Russian Empire, the same Russian Empire from before the Soviet Union, from over 100 years ago. That includes all of Ukraine. It includes Finland. It includes Belarus and Georgia and Moldova, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, and Lithuania, Latvia and Estonia. It includes parts of Poland and Turkey. In essence, Putin wants the world to travel back in time, to a time before the United Nations, to a time when empires ruled the world. But the rest of the world has moved forward. It is not 1919. It is 2022. The United Nations was founded on the principle of decolonization, not recolonization. And we believe the vast majority of UN member states and the UN Security Council are committed to moving forward, not going back in time. The consequences of Russia's actions will be dire across Ukraine, across Europe, and across the globe. In our past 2 meetings on Ukraine, I've mentioned nearly 3 million Ukrainians will need food, shelter, and life-saving assistance right now. The UN estimates the humanitarian toll will expand significantly should Russia further invade. Already, Russian proxies dramatically increased shelling and artillery fire over the weekend, killing Ukrainian civilians and soldiers. If Russia invades Ukraine even further, we will see a devastating loss of life, unimaginable suffering. Millions of displaced people will create a refugee crisis across Europe. Nevertheless, Russia has declined repeated entreaties to state its intentions before the world, including by Secretary Blinken in the Security Council last Thursday. Colleagues, President Putin is testing our international system. He is testing our resolve and seeing just how far he can push us all. He wants to demonstrate that through force, he can make a farce of the UN. We must act together in response to this crisis. Over the past few weeks, the world has heard the other 14 members of the Security Council speak with one voice, asking Russia to pursue diplomacy. Other members of this council, even those who often align with Russia on other matters, have been clear that the sovereignty, independence, and territorial integrity of every UN member state should be respected and safeguarded, including Ukraine. That this is a basic norm of international relations and that it embodies the purpose of the UN Charter. The sequence of events that Secretary Blinken spelled out for this council last Thursday appear to be proceeding exactly as he predicted. Today, President Putin has torn the Minsk agreement to shreds. We have been clear that we do not believe he will stop at that. In light of President Putin's latest actions, we must all stand up for the principles upon which this organization was founded. President Biden issued an executive order today that will prohibit new investment, trade, and financing in the so-called DPR and LPR regions. Tomorrow, the United States will take further measures to hold Russia accountable for this clear violation of international law and Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity. But we and our partners have been clear that there will be a swift and severe response were Russia to further invade Ukraine. In this moment, no one can stand on the sidelines. We must make it clear that an attack on Ukraine is an attack on the sovereignty of every UN member state and the UN Charter, and that it will be met with swift and severe consequences. We continue to believe that the diplomatic table is the only place where responsible nations resolve their differences. That is the only place to preserve peace. Thank you, Mr. President.
I thank the representative of the United States.
Okay, the leader of the president of the United Nations at the moment is Russia, the Russian representative. So this gets interesting. A lot of different countries spoke. Again, most of them spoke with a singular voice of, Russia needs to stop what they're doing. I'm trying to get to, as I said, a number of countries spoke. I want to get to China because I know a lot of people are interested in what China had to say. And I'm trying to, here we go.
Need in Ukraine. President, let me conclude by again reiterating Norway's unwavering support for Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity within its international recognized borders. Let me finally recall the principles and purposes of the UN Charter which are now under threat by the action of the Russian Federation in and around Ukraine. Thank you.
I thank the representative of Norway for her statement. I give the floor to the permanent representative of China.
谢谢主席先生。
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, China has been paying close attention to the latest developments of the situation in Ukraine. We fully elaborated on our position at the previous two meetings of the Council on this topic. At present, all parties concerned must exercise restraint and avoid any action that may fuel tensions. We welcome and encourage every effort for a diplomatic solution and call on all parties concerned to continue dialogue and consultation and seek reasonable solutions to address each other's concerns on the basis of equality and mutual respect. The current situation in Ukraine is a result of many complex factors. China always makes its own position according to the merits of the matter itself. We believe that all countries should solve international disputes by peaceful means in line with the purposes and principles of the UN Charter. I thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, now it's Russia's
I
turn.
thank the representative of China for his statement. I shall now make a statement in my capacity as the representative of the Russian Federation.
If you're just joining the program, thank you very much. I'm back here running screens. I'll be in the StreamYard page here in just a minute and say hi if you're in chat. So here's what Russia has to say.
Distinguished colleagues, we've just now heard a number of highly emotional statements, categorical assessments and far-reaching conclusions related to the signing today by Russia's president of decrees recognizing the Lugansk and Donetsk People's Republics. I'll leave the direct verbal assaults against us unanswered. Now it's important to focus on how to avoid war and how to force Ukraine to stop the shelling and provocations against Donetsk and Lugansk. From the statements of a number of our colleagues, one may get the impression that Russia's recognition of the LPR and the DPR took place suddenly, for no reason at all. Of course, that's not the case. It should be remembered that the DPR and the LPR declared their independence from Ukraine back in 2014. But we only recognize them now, despite the high level of support for doing so, both in the republics themselves and in Russian society from the very beginning. At the time, the hope won out that the Ukrainian Maidan regime would think again and would stop talking to their own citizens in the east in the language of cannons and shooting and threats and shelling. Time and again, we firmly asked Kiev to listen to the aspirations of the people living in Donbass and the Russian-speaking residents of the country, to respect their entirely legitimate desire to use their mother tongue and to teach their children in that language, and also to honor the memories of those who liberated the land from fascists rather than those who fought on the side of fascists and had a hand in the killing of hundreds of thousands of people during the Second World War. After Ukrainian military adventures butted up against the determination of the people of Donetsk and Lugansk to defend their lands, the Minsk agreements were signed and the package of measures was adopted with the aim of implementing it. There was once again hope for peace and that the Maidan authorities would be sensible, having exhausted the desire to submerge Donetsk and Lugansk in blood. There was a particularly great amount of hope invested in the election in 2019 of a new president of Ukraine, who promised at long last to establish peace in Donbass. However, those who hoped that the Ukrainian authorities would take a peaceful stance were unfortunately mistaken. Kiev not only very quickly returned to its bellicose rhetoric and continued the shelling of civilians, but also did everything it could to sabotage and ultimately destroy the Minsk agreements. And most importantly here is the flat refusal of Kiev to speak directly with the representatives of Donetsk and Lugansk, despite the fact that this requirement is a central structural element of the package of measures. An unambiguous confirmation of an unwillingness to engage in that dialogue is something we've heard repeatedly from Ukrainian leaders in the last few days, including from the permanent representative of Ukraine during the Security Council meeting that we convened on the 17th of February to discuss the implementation of the Minsk agreements. After that, it became clear once and for all that Ukraine did not intend to implement the Minsk agreements. And I would like to recall and remind my colleagues on the Security Council that in all other conflicts, be it Libya, Syria, or Yemen, we all demand and call for direct dialogue between the parties to the conflict. And it's only in Ukraine, for example, the Ukraine that is for some reason an exception to this rule. From some statements today, one may understand that a number of our colleagues are ready to bury the Minsk agreements. However, I would like to remind you that when the Minsk agreements were concluded, the LPR and the DPR had already declared their independence. The fact that Russia today recognized that in no way changes the makeup of the parties to the Minsk agreements, because Russia is not a party to the Minsk agreements. We have repeatedly declared this, and in so doing, in this regard, nothing has changed. It's another matter that the Minsk agreements, part of the provisions of which were supposed to be implemented way back in 2015, have long been openly sabotaged by Ukraine with the backing of our Western colleagues. And today we can see that many colleagues want to sign up to the idea that the Minsk agreements are dead, but that's not the case. And Kiev is still bound to implement them. We remain open to diplomacy for a diplomatic solution. However, allowing a new bloodbath in the Donbass is something we do not intend to do. Unfortunately, we are forced to note the extremely negative role played in all of this by our Western colleagues, led by the USA. Instead of forcing Kiev to implement its obligations, they have merely been openly egging Ukraine on, repeating the meaningless mantra that the obligations under the Minsk agreement are not being implemented by Russia, which, as we've repeatedly underscored, is not even a party to the Minsk agreements. Moreover, while for the last few weeks already whipping up unfounded panic around the allegedly impending Russian invasion of Ukraine, our Western colleagues have been unashamedly cramming weapons into the country, sending instructors there, essentially nudging the Ukrainians who have concentrated an 120,000 strong military contingent along the contact line towards an armed provocation against Donbass. The joint efforts of the West and Ukraine have inflated an air bubble that simply had to burst. In the past weekend, there's been a sharp increase in the intensity of Ukrainian shelling of residential areas of LPR and DPR, and the 1,600 shells have been shot, civilians have been killed. The territory of the republics has been penetrated by subversive groups who have carried out or tried to carry out sabotage of critical infrastructure. As I already said, there are casualties from among the civilian population. The LPR and DPR have declared general mobilization. It's in Russia and not Ukraine that refugees have flooded to. Over the last few days, the number of evacuated women, old people, and children has reached around 60,000 people, and Russia is hosting them and providing them with conditions for them to be housed and supported. There has also been shelling of some towns and villages on Russian territory near the border zone. And so it has become clear that Donbass is on the brink of a new Ukrainian military adventure, as was already the case in 2014 and 2015. We cannot allow that. That is why the Russian president heeded the opinion of parliamentarians and members of the Russian Security Council, and you know the rest. A detailed statement from our head of state about the reasons of this decision that has been taken was broadcast in detail by all the world's leading media. Today, it's true, we have heard an open distortion of what the president was talking about in his statement. about history and the genesis of this situation, and about the fact that he allegedly said that he wants to reconstruct the Russian Empire. Distinguished colleagues, I would like to call upon our Western colleagues to think twice, to set emotions to one side, and not to make the situation worse. No one other than you can hold back the militaristic plans of Kiev and force it to stop the shelling and provocations against the Lugansk and Donetsk People's Republics, which in these new conditions could have extremely dangerous consequences. In accordance with the agreements that were signed today and on the basis of their requests from the Republic, peacekeeping functions on their territories will be carried out by the armed forces of the Russian Federation. Distinguished colleagues, in conclusion, I would like to note that in today's statements, most of you did not find any place for the more than 4 million of residents of Donbass. It's as though you've been cancelling out their faiths from your statements from 2014, generally calling them pro-Russian separatists. At the same time, you decided that the illegal coup in 2014 only wanted to discuss with the new authorities how their rights would be upheld. That was all they wanted to do. In the last few days, with the sharp intensification in military activity from the Ukrainian army along the contact line, the lives of hundreds of thousands of women, children, and elderly persons have once again, as in 2014 and 2015, ended up under real threat. And the main aim of our decision was to protect and preserve those people. And that is more important than all of your threats. Thank you.
Okay. Let me do this real quick here. Hello to everybody that's watching. Greatly appreciated. We're just basically doing a wrap up of where things are at the moment in the Russian-Ukraine conflict. We've just heard from the president of the Security Council, just happens to be the Russian ambassador at this time, and you heard his defense of their actions in Ukraine. And for those that, a lot of people have never watched what happens in a UN Security Council meeting. And a lot of people here, the UN Security Council of the UN, they don't have any teeth. The UN are worthless. All they do is talk. Some of those assessments may be proven right. This is what's coming up. It's not exactly a banging the shoe on the table, or the Cuban Missile Crisis. I'm prepared to wait until hell freezes over statement by Adlai Stevenson, the then United States ambassador to the United Nations. But there are a couple of moments coming up here. So I'm going to drop back off of the chat or off of the page here, and I'll come back up and we'll talk here a little bit at the end. But this is Ukraine is about to get their turn.
My function as president of the council. I now give the floor to the permanent representative of Ukraine.
Okay, as I said, a lot of people don't watch Security Council meetings. I don't make a habit of it myself. But those of you that do watch the show know that I've got a background in a lot of different things, including politics. And you are about to witness the equivalent of giving a middle finger to a fellow diplomat.
Distinguished members of the Security Council, Under Secretary, it is with unease that I will now...
And you probably didn't notice it because we don't watch a lot of this. If you had watched the entire video, you would have seen that every single one of the previous speakers addressed the president of the Security Council first, then the vice, and Ukraine just ignored the Russian, who is currently president of the Security Council. Again, it's a very subtle thing to you and me, but it's a big diplomatic middle finger.
Remove my mask. And it is not because of the COVID virus. We are all vaccinated. There are vaccines for COVID. It is because of the virus that has so far no vaccine. The virus that hit the United Nations, and the virus that is spread by the Kremlin. The delegation of Ukraine has requested this urgent meeting to draw the attention of the Security Council to the illegal and illegitimate decision by the President of the Russian Federation to recognize the occupied parts of Donetsk and Lugansk regions of Ukraine as so-called Donetsk and Lugansk People's Republics. Today, the entire membership of the United Nations is under attack by the country that occupied the membership of the Security Council in 1991, bypassing the UN Charter. The country that occupied parts of the territory of Georgia in 2008. The country that occupied parts of Ukraine in 2014. As stated by the President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, following the urgent meeting of the National Security and Defense Council of Ukraine, the internationally recognized borders of Ukraine have been and will remain unchangeable, regardless of any statements and actions by the Russian Federation. Ukraine unequivocally qualifies the recent actions by the Russian Federation as violation of sovereignty and territorial integrity of Ukraine. The political leadership of the Russian Federation shall bear full responsibility for the outcomes of the decision taken. Recognition of the occupied parts of the Donetsk and Lugansk regions of Ukraine may be considered as unilateral withdrawal by Russia from the Minsk agreements, and well as its disregard of the decisions taken in the framework of the Normandy Fall. This step undermines peaceful efforts and ruins the existing negotiating frameworks. By the decisions adopted today and those that may be adopted tomorrow, Russia legalizes the presence of its troops, which have actually been in the occupied areas of Donbass since 2014. A country that has fueled the war for 8 years is not able to maintain peace as it claims. What will happen next? We want peace, and we are consistent in our actions. Today, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine has sent a request on the basis of the Budapest Memorandum to the guarantors of security of Ukraine, demanding immediate consultations. The meeting of the UN Security Council and the special meeting of the OEC have been initiated. We insist on the full-fledged operations of the OEC SMM to prevent provocations and further escalation. An emergency summit of Normandy 4 has been requested. We expect from our partners clear and efficient steps of support. It is critical to see now who is our true friend and partner, who is on the side of the UN Charter, and who will be who will continue to deter Russia by words only. We are committed to a political diplomatic settlement and do not succumb to provocations. In accordance with Article 51 of the Charter, Ukraine has the inherent right to individual and collective self-defense. We are committed to a peaceful and diplomatic path, and we will stay firmly on it. We are on our land. We are not afraid of anything or anyone. We owe nothing to anyone, and we will not give away anything to anyone. There should be no doubts whatsoever, because it is not February 2014. It is February 2022. Another country, another army. One goal is peace. Peace in Ukraine, peace in Europe, global peace. Excellencies, we must do all we can to make sure that the problem of Donbass is resolved through implementation of the Minsk agreements. That was said here in the Security Council chamber just 4 days ago, said by the Russian Deputy Foreign Minister in the chair of the President of the Council, with a reference to President Putin. President Putin, who has taken a decision that we discussed today as a threat to the rules-based order, to the UN Charter, in particular Article 2 of the Charter, as well as to international peace and security. Peace and security that the Council has been conferred a primary responsibility to maintain under the Article 24 of the UN Charter. And in accordance with the Article 39, the Security Council shall make recommendations or decide what measures shall be taken to maintain or restore international peace and security. The delegation of Ukraine requests the Security Council members to exercise the above duties. We invite the Russian Federation to reread again and again carefully today's statement, where the Secretary General considered the decision of the Russian Federation to be a violation of territorial integrity and sovereignty of Ukraine, and inconsistent with the principles of the Charter of the United Nations, and I thank the Secretary General for this powerful statement. In conclusion, I would like to reiterate that it remains up to Russia to abandon its long-lasting strategy on Ukraine, based on threat and use of force against the territorial integrity or political independence of my country, and re-engage in what we all have committed to, fundamental principles of peaceful relations enshrined in the UN Charter. We demand from Russia to cancel the decision on recognition and return to the table of negotiations. We condemn the order to deploy additional Russian occupation troops in the territories of Ukraine. We demand immediate and complete verifiable withdrawal of the occupation troops. Dear members of the Security Council, the United Nations is sick. That's a matter of fact. It's been hit by the virus spread by the Kremlin. Will it succumb to this virus? It is in the hands of the membership. Today, the Kremlin copy-pasted word by word the decree on Georgia of 2008. Word by word.
Okay. What you're looking at here is basically the Kremlin released a document, and it was word by word the same document they released to justify going into Georgia. Only they just changed the names of the countries.
Copy, paste it. Copy, paste it. No creativity whatsoever. The copying machine in Kremlin works very well. Who is the next among the members of the United Nations?
That's not funny. Who is next?
The question is open. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, good.
Now, what the president of the Security Council says now is also worth noting.
Председатель,
I, as the President of the Security Council, am obliged to say this. I thank the representative of Ukraine for his statement. I now give the floor to the representative of Germany.
So he only said it out of decorum. There is a real dislike between, and you could hear it in Putin's speech, between Russia and at least parts of Ukraine. I'm going to run up, and we're not going to hear all of the speech of the ambassador from Germany, but I want to get the last little bit in here. Again, you can go to, it's real simple, just go to YouTube, UN, and you can watch it in its entirety.
Ukraine and Russia and Belarus, and I call on Russia to recommit to the rules-based security architecture in Europe, which has been built over decades. Russia's decisions have put this order under serious strain. We call upon Russia to instead return to the path of diplomacy, of shedding instead of shedding further blood. And Germany will spare no diplomatic effort in this regard, while steadfastly standing by Ukraine, its territorial integrity and sovereignty, and the Ukrainian people. Thank you.
я благодарю.
I thank the representative of Germany for her statement.
Okay, she was the last speaker. So you would think, there's going to be some kind of vote. There's going to be some kind of verbal spanking, if you will, if you watch the whole thing. Everybody but Russia thinks Russia's in the wrong. Russia thinks everybody else is wrong, and they have had a historical right to the land that is Ukraine. But here's how it really ends.
There are no more names inscribed on the list of speakers. The meeting is adjourned.
And that's it. And that's it. That's how it ends. And again, this is why the UN has the reputation of toothless, powerless, nothing but talk. So disciplinary sage, hello. China's going to come in and moderate a deal. The French Prime Minister Macron is trying to do that. China's probably the one with enough clout to do it. From Russia with love, with missiles, T-Rex. Hillary protects her assets in Ukraine should be the title. They're just going through the formalities before the knives come out. I don't know. I don't remember her saying that Ukraine is a member of NATO. I know the U.S. wants Ukraine in NATO, and I think NATO wants to be, or Ukraine wants to be in NATO as well. Yeah, Carl, you got a good point. Sometimes it's an obscure view we have as Americans. Imagine if Russia or China put a weapon system at the border between us and New Mexico, or Alberta decided to put a weapon system up across from Montana. We wouldn't be too happy about it. So And I said this, I say this all the time. It's all a matter of perspective. If it's all which side you're for, basically, which side you're on, because one person that is deemed a terrorist by some is also deemed a freedom fighter by others. So it's always side you're on. The United States needs to stop using the UN in Ukraine, go to war with Russia, and stop putting missile systems at the border between Russia and Ukraine. With this happening, everyone should go and get supplies while you can. You won't believe how many people are here in the U.S. that don't know what's going on. There's a lot of people that have no clue what's going on. You're right about that. Thanks, Thunder. How's it going, T-Rex? Hi, Summer, Diane. I think it's everybody in the chat. Get back down here to the bottom. Will American troops be pulled into this eventually? Biden has said we're not sending in American troops. George Herbert Walker Bush said no more new taxes. So I sure hope not, but I anticipate it. If this does continue to escalate. Now, we're at an interesting point because Russia has moved a bunch of troops across the recognized border of Ukraine. You heard Ukraine in the Security Council not happy about it and considers it a violation. It's a matter of what's everybody else think. And everybody's a lot of analysis is being done that says, oh, NATO is so strong, and NATO. I don't know what the resolve of NATO is, especially since Trump really tried to crush NATO. He wanted to defund NATO and put it out of existence because he and Putin were friends. It was going to benefit Putin, and Russia basically financed a major chunk of his primary campaigns. You can go back and look all that up with Don Jr. on there talking about, we didn't know what we were doing when we were taking all this Russian money. So that's, and Kevin, I don't know if you watched it in the beginning, but at the beginning, the first thing I brought up was a flight tracker. And I was showing a U.S. Reconnaissance plane, and it was heading in the direction where there could be confrontation with Russia. And that was one of the reasons I was watching it, to make sure that, nothing happened. That's my fear, that Americans end up getting involved on the ground. Now, at the same time, I think it was an incredible mistake for Biden to say we won't put troops in. That's just like showing your cards. But that's neither here nor there at the moment because it's already been done. And it depends who you're talking to. If you talk to people that, by the way, I got a text as soon as the Russian troops started rolling in, and they didn't go very far. We showed that in the map earlier, the area where they are actually at the moment, as far as what we know. But they are there, and I don't think anybody's going to do anything about it. I don't think Ukraine can do anything about it, and I don't think the rest of the world will do anything about it. And I think that was the frustration that the Ukrainian ambassador was saying. He basically said, okay, are we just going to sit around here and talk, or is somebody actually going to stand up with us to stop Russia from what they're doing? And then he went on to say, you got to think about who's next, because here's what, here's the statement for Georgia, and all they did was copy and paste, and here's the statement for Ukraine. So who's next? That's why it's so important. That's why it's so pivotal, because if America gets involved, we're not going to put troops in. What's that mean? That means we're going to be launching airstrikes. We're going to be launching missiles. And we're going to have pilots at risk. So I can't see a conventional 200,000 U.S. forces fighting 190,000 Russian forces. I don't see anything like that. I think that was 60 years ago, and things just aren't done that way now. And in all honesty, the U.S. probably has troops in Ukraine, but not of record. It's not public knowledge. But I imagine there are special forces. I imagine there are CIA operatives. I imagine there are U.S. influences inside Ukraine now, other than media. No, not technically, Summer. They're just discussing what's going on. A small portion of Ukraine has been invaded, if you will, but it was actually territory that has been pretty much under Russian separatist control. So it can be looked at as a technicality, or it can be looked at as a slap in the face. And but it hasn't started an all-out war yet. I say it can be looked at as a technicality, or it can be looked at as a slap in the face. It's a technicality probably if you're Joe Biden. If you're America, it's just a small chunk. We'll let them have it, and avoid a messy war, and I'll get a Nobel Peace Prize. It's a slap in the face if you're Ukraine. And just like I don't remember who it was, Carl, I think, said, how would you feel if there was a missile battery on the coast of New Mexico, on the border of New Mexico? Well, how would you feel if Mexico just decided, hey, 25 miles of New Mexico, all of New Mexico's ours. It was all Mexican to begin with. You took it from us. I mean, this is a legitimate scenario. It's not going to happen, but Mexico could say, we have the right to reclaim New Mexico, just like Putin is saying Russia has the right to reclaim Ukraine, even though Ukraine was around before Russia. But that's world history, and we're not lecturing on that tonight. But still, if all of a sudden Mexico says we're going to take this 30-mile chunk of what you call New Mexico, even though it is Mexico, it is our territory, you stole it from us. Would we be happy about that? No. And Ukraine is not happy about what is happening in their country, and justifiably so. Now, the pro-Russian people in those areas were shooting off fireworks earlier and dancing in the streets because they see it as they're being liberated. And from that side, you can't say they're not, because we don't know. And one of the other things I talk about a lot is the fact that American government analysts, military analysts, they tend to look at things as, okay, we're in this situation and what would we do? And it never works out because our cultures are so different. We don't put ourselves in and say, what will Putin do? What will a Russian do? We look at it as, what would we do? and that puts us at an incredible disadvantage at times because we don't grasp the cultural differences. We don't grasp a lot of the nuances, and we just tend to go in and kick ass and take names as America, and when somebody else is doing it, does it make us look bad, or does it make us go, okay, well, should we stop this, or should we wait until the next time we want to go in and take something and not be at a threat to have ourselves stopped? That's just real talk. That's just how things are. Everything's all economics. It's all natural resources. It's all about money. And again, the United States, if somebody threatened the United States with what we're threatening Russia with, cutting off so much stuff, the United States would be shaken in its boots because our entire system is based upon credit. As far as Russia, I don't think they really care about sanctions. I don't think they care about, or Putin particularly. I don't think they care about sanctions. I don't think they care about condemnation. I don't think he cares about angst or anybody not looking favorably upon him. But yet, that's how we approach him, as well. This is what it would impact us, so we're going to do that to him. It's not going to be effective. That's my point. So I remember the days when one man took out Russia, John Rambo. Yeah. And then he went back to Nam, I think, and rescued some people. And yeah, so hey, thank you all for watching. Thanks for hanging out. It's been over an hour. I didn't want to go over an hour because hopefully people will go back and watch that aren't here live. And if you get up over an hour, it kind of distracts. But this is important stuff, and it needs to be talked about. And it needs to be talked about in a way that doesn't have that you're not hearing a particular slant. Okay, looking at things objectively and trying to be as objective as you possibly can. So that's what we try to do here. Give you things to think about, not tell you what to think or how to think. So thank you all for watching. I love you all. Shalom, Salom, Namaste. Blessings upon each one of you. It's a dark world. Be a light. I love you. Links to buy the books are in the description, as well as how to get a hold of me by email and how to help out the channel by Cashapp. So we'll be back. It is officially 12:51 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, the second day, or the second month, the 22nd day of the 22nd year of the new millennium. So it is 2/22/2022. If you're into numerology, and in just a few hours it will be 2/22/2022. All right, love y'all. It's the American Doofus Show.